Study. As I've been undertaking some new changes in life, study. That is a huge part of the whole lexicon of this knowledge based material. So, anytime we have something that is given to us to study, how can we break that down? And the way I was kind of thinking of it is, let's take S, strategic. How do we approach it? Because I'm finding out that the way that I want studied does not fit either my lifestyle, my habits, even just my physical cognitive functions as time goes on and things change within us, our focuses. There's a lot of things that will change about how we think about studying. So strategic. Make the time. Figure out what time is going to work for you. Do you do it in the morning before your kids get up? Yeah, it's bad because you don't want to have to get up any earlier. But if you got to get that down, if you get for that job, for that project, for that homework, if it's a playbook, if it's a script, you name it. Sometimes it's just figuring out what cement formula to mix if you're going to be, in that industry. Whatever it is, if you have homework and you got to figure out how to study it, strategy. When are you going to attack this? When is this going to be something that you are going to address and give it your whole attention? That's the other part, is giving it your whole attention. Not being able to say, well, I'll give it, just a moment here. Speaking of just a moment, I'll give it a moment here, give it a moment there, and, hope that works. So we need to devise a time that's really going to work for what we need it to do, which is retain the knowledge. Sometimes it's retaining it just long enough to pass that test and things like that. But if we're going to be studying something and undergoing a course of higher education to us, then we need to really give it the respect to say, I'm going to retain this and it's something that I can utilize. And the information becomes knowledge, and the knowledge can ultimately become wisdom. So we really want to put that in place. Strategic. And how about time? Strategic timing. So we're taking the strategic like when, the time is when, but we need to put this into how much time are we giving to this? Do we give it 20 minutes? Do we give it 30 minutes? Are we going to give it an hour? And sometimes we need to break that in. So if we're going to say we're going to take an hour and you're not a strong studier like I am, every 20 minutes to 30 minutes, I'm going to take about a 5-minute break just to reset my brain. I'm just going to look, because we're in a day and age where we're all attached to our phones. And a lot of times when you're trying to study, that can already be a distraction. If it's not buzzing, you're wondering, am I missing something? So just take the few minutes, alleviate yourself, get that focus back onto the studies. Okay, I caught up, I saw the latest cat video, TikTok dance, whatever, and now I can go back to what I need to. And that's worked pretty well for me. Now you just have to be disciplined enough to stay on time, to say I'm going to give myself 5 or 10 minutes and not go too far over with that. You don't want to study a half an hour, break for half an hour, study for half an hour, break for half an hour, because sooner or later it's going to be study for 25 minutes, break for 35, study for 20, break for 40. So we wanted to make sure we're not backsliding on our time, giving it the time, not only the time of day, but the proper amount of time that this is going to take. So I think that that's really just an important piece. So we have strategic timing. And let's say under. So, and I'm going to put it together with the under deadline. So we have under deadline. We know what that means. And this is all time based. This is all saying that we're going to look at this and say, when can I do this? And under the deadline is going to be, does that have to be done by a certain time? Does that project have to be turned in? When is that work presentation? When is that cement need to be mixed? When are you going to be on set? When is the game for that playbook? When is the test or quiz for that class? So any of those things really should be given some sort of deadline to say, or when do you just want to apply it in real life? And that's the other thing. So a lot of times many of us will not be under even duress to say it needs to be done at a certain time, because we know there's a certain stress level that comes with studying for tests and things like that. So we don't want to give it that kind of feeling, but we do want to say under deadline, which means we have a set time to where this is going to need to like play itself out. And the why is you. You are going to be the one that has to undertake the strategic timing under deadline. That's you. To figure this out, to put it all together and say, accountability is on me, that I need to sit down with this. I need to give this material the proper context and the proper respect that it deserves. Because if you've paid for a class, well, then you've invested your money and your time. Please don't waste the professor's or anybody else's. And if you've been brought on for a team or even on a set for a commercial, movie, what have you, give those people that same respect, because you were brought in because they said this person can represent our team or our product very well. And so give them that same respect because they gave you that consideration and they gave you that opportunity to show and prove. The strategy is going to be up to you. I'm a big flashcard person and I write them down. I have a stack of flashcards that I bought as well. But the one thing that I noticed is with writing things down, and I'm sure a lot of you know this as well, your brain slows down. And so when I have to write it and think it and say it as I'm writing it, I feel that I'm retaining it more than just saying I have a massive pile of flashcards that I can just flip through that were already pre-written. So my notes may not be the greatest. And that's another thing, how we take notes. A lot of this is going to fall under strategy. What are you a better book reader? Are you better at finding things online? Are there videos that you can watch? Are you a hands-on person? Do flashcards do it? Do you have your family and friends quiz you? Are you the one that just wants to read it under a flashlight, under a sheet at night, so nobody knows what you're up to? You got to figure out which kind of studying person you are and take these bits and pieces, and I would say take all of them and put them in a prioritization that says, I can, do the flashcards the majority of the time, but I also know that I have to read to do the flashcards. So a lot of these are going to have couplings, but you really should take the time to figure out, who am I? How do I study? Just like exercising, who am I? What do I want to accomplish? Do I want to lift up the whole gym, or do I want to be able to climb a mountain, or do I want to be able to run a marathon? There's going to be different things that you're going to need to do to accomplish those. Same thing if you were cooking, same thing for any of these pieces and projects. What character do I want to be when we're talking about that script? So we need to strategize not only the studying itself, but how we as the individual, the student, are going to attack and look at this and say, okay, this is how I'm going to approach this. We don't, and I'm using strategy, but approach is a good word too. But then again, there is no A in study, so we're just going to stick with that. But the point being is there's levels to that. Just like with the time doesn't necessarily have to just be the time of day. It can be the time that we dedicate to it. Or it can be what time of day and how much break time are we going to put into it. There's different ways. And how much time do we have before that under deadline comes before us? So do we have a week? Do we have a couple days? Do we have a couple months? How long do we have when we're talking about that? Because again, the study can be the study of how I need to lose weight. And I have 1 year before my wedding. I have 1 year before the next high school reunion. I have 1 year before that trip to the Bahamas. So now I get to study all of these things to figure out what's going to work best for my exercise, my diet, and all of those things, and be able to put that into play. So sometimes your time is the duration before the deadline. Under that, what do we have? How much time do we have? And again, deadlines are just, it can be a variety of things. You're going to have to step onto that field, step in front of those cameras. You're going to have to step out with your cement mixing trowel and all that stuff, or you're just going to have to walk into that classroom, walk into that interview, walk in before the board and present whatever it is. Walk in front of that person with flowers or best intentions, whatever it is, you're going to have to do that, study it. And unfortunately for a lot of people, you're going to have to walk into court and be able to take those flowers back sometimes from people. It's sad but true. So you, that's the why. You have to figure these things out. So I'm just putting this out there. Maybe it's something you guys have thought of, but it was something that as I study, then my brain started going to, what, how can I break down study? So I like these acronyms. Hopefully this is something that is simple enough. And if you have your own acronym for study, or if you've come up with one or can come up with one, leave it in the comments. That would be awesome to go along with your ace up the sleeve advice, comment, experience. Leave it in the chats. That would be fantastic. And I can't speak enough to thumbs up. It's right there. Please click the thumb up or even the thumb down. I won't be mad at you for either, but they do matter. And as always, subscriptions to the channel are free. And sharing with your friends is an awesome thing to do because the knowledge is free and it's something that they're going to get for free simply by clicking a button. So hopefully they will enjoy that and appreciate you for doing that. In the meantime, I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.